Hello everyone, my name is Grand, and today we will be reading from the ProRevenge subreddit. The title is Mother Lies, Takes Money From Me, Then Gets Screwed Over Financially. I hope you enjoy. So I'm 19, female, and had only been living with my mother for a good 3.5 years. Was put into foster care at a young age and don't remember living with my mother at all. Before moving in with her, she would tell me how great it would be for me to live there and how I would be treated with respect and yada yada yada. Well, since I started college, things went to shit. My whole life. I wanted to go to college for art, but my mother convinced me that it was stupid, and so I chose to go for a business degree. I got into my state's business and marketing honor society during my last year of high school for having a 98% in all 5 of my business classes. My first semester of college, everything started out fine, but the end of September hit and I got a reimbursement from financial aid. Let me add, my mother is on Social Security income for minor disabilities and hasn't worked in the past 18 years. She has arthritis and fibromyalgia, so apparently she can't work. I got public assistance that I never knew about since I was never allowed to do paperwork for anything. I thought we only got food stamps, but apparently she lied and said I was paying a couple $100s for rent so she could get more money. So she was getting nearly $500 a month for my needs. I never got anything unless it was Christmas. And $350 a month for food stamps. My boyfriend had to buy me food because I never allowed to eat at home and didn't want to get a $3,000 meal plan on campus. Anyway, I got a healthy $2,000 back from financial aid, which I originally planned on spending on clothes. I had a pair of fitting jeans since I lived with my mother, a laptop for school, and food. Well, apparently, every time I get money, it belongs to my mother. She demanded I give her most of the money, so I spent $1,500 on some jeans for me and a brand new PS4 system, PS Vita, PS Plus, and a bunch of PS4 games for my boyfriend. I know that sounds reckless of me, but he's paid me back for it. She was pissed and belittled me till I gave her the rest of the money for rent and bills and food. She went off and bought her boyfriend drugs. I was mad because obviously that's just not okay. I just pushed through a semester and kinda sucked it up like I usually do. February came along and pretty much the same thing happened. She demanded my $3,000. I got more this past semester because I only had to pay for one textbook, to pay for rent, electricity, the Wi-Fi, food, and everything under the sun. She got mad when I refused to give her more than $350. I went off and spent the money on my anniversary, including outfit, gas, 2 meals, and some gifts. A new phone. My phone barely worked and it was 7 years old, and prepaid my phone plan for the next few months. I also bought myself some food for when I was home. She was irate. How dare I spend money on my boyfriend and not the woman who birthed me? I tried staying away from home as much as possible, driving around with my boyfriend for the most part, but every time I came home, I would get yelled at. Well, March was when the shit hit the fan. I needed my Medicaid card. They put cash assistance on the card for convenience, and birth certificate for a program that helps people get jobs in the area, and she wasn't having it, apparently saying I needed them was being rude and disrespectful. I ignored her for the most part and kept insisting that I needed them right away because I had to leave. She gave them to me in half an hour of telling me her I needed to leave and just started yelling at me. So I left for a few hours and got a call from my caseworker asking when I would turn in timesheets. I had to get a signature from each teacher stating I was in class to keep my insurance benefits and food stamps. I didn't know about the cash assistance. She told me I could lose the cash assistance if I did. I asked her what she was talking about, and she told me I got approximately $500 a month to pay for rent and other things I needed. I informed her that I never knew about that, and she was very upset that my mother was using the money on God knows what. She told me to change the pin on the card and not let my mother touch it. So I changed the pin on my card, went home, and my room was torn up. My clothes were everywhere, my old laptop was missing, my Christmas gifts for my boyfriend were gone. I was very upset. I told my mother I wanted my stuff back, and she threw everything at my door. I started packing my bags because I was done with her garbage. She demanded I give her my Medicaid card back since she keeps everyone else's. She got in my face, threw my glasses on the floor, tried throwing my new phone, and was just screaming at me till I gave it to her. I have PTSD, so I panic whenever someone is even slightly loud. After she went to the store and tried buying something with it, she came home and started shoving me around, demanding I give her the pen. I was just like my father. I was a piece of garbage for buying jeans that actually fit me for once in my life. I was trash for liking the presents I got from my boyfriend and not from her. I got pants that were 2 sizes too big and a very low rise for Christmas. Yeah, no. Etc., etc. She actually hit me because of it, and hit me till I gave her my pen, so of course, I was dumb and gave it to her. Someone for some reason called the cops, and they showed up shortly after, and her boyfriend started telling them I was abusive and manipulative and a pathological liar. I showed them where she hit me and tried explaining that she took my Medicaid card, but they didn't care. The cops never care because supposedly my mom's boyfriend has put half of our local police force into the hospital. After the cops left, my mother said that my boyfriend, who has done nothing and has only been supportive of me throughout this, was a pedophile. I'm a year older than him, and that he was not allowed to enter the house again. She said that I had a new curfew of 6 p.m. I had class that ended at 5 and took me 2 hours to walk home, so that was stupid. And if I left the house, I was to never return. So I left. My boyfriend took me to a homeless shelter, specifically for teens and young adults that were in abusive situations and had nowhere else to go. I got my own apartment, with the potential of getting a roommate at some point, and honestly have never felt better in my life. The following day, I got to go get a new card, and my mother was taking out $260 at 5 a.m. with the help of my oldest sister. I had $4 to buy food for 2 weeks, before I could apply for my own food stamp and cash assistance case. Most of the time, I only had water, and I would eat every 3 days at my boyfriend's house. When the virus hit, his dad refused to let me over, even though he knew what was going on, to a certain extent. I didn't eat anything for a week before being able to get food stamps. I wish I had gotten a job, but having 8 classes, one of which was 6 hours a week for a measly 1 credit, took up the majority of my time. The college suggested I withdraw to focus on my mental health. I was afraid of leaving my new place because I didn't want to be attacked by my family or my mom's boyfriend drug addict's friends. I went from seeing my therapist for half an hour every other week to seeing her for an hour every week. She suggested that I cut contact with my mother permanently, even though it meant losing a good $3,000 worth of stuff I bought myself over the past 12 years. I got paid to babysit and take care of the farm while in foster care. I was so upset about losing all 40 of my stuffed animals. They really meant a lot to me, and they kinda were the only things that helped me calm down from a panic attack. I know it sounds immature, but I've had most of them since I was about 8 years old. Then something popped in my head while I was applying for my own food stamps and cash assistance case. The revenge. I realized that I could easily report my mother for welfare fraud. Not only had she been taking $500 a month, but she had lied and said her boyfriend and her didn't share food and were roommates. They paid to use other people's food stamps, and she has sold her food stamps for cash to buy fast food or drugs. So I did just that. I went to our state's website and reported her fraud, adding that when she took the money from my card at 5 a.m. that one day. I went into detail, gave the exact location and where she did it and everything. I said she used other people's cards all the time, which was very true, and how she demanded my card whenever I had it. A couple weeks later, I get a letter from the Department of Social Services. They accidentally sent it to my address instead of my mom's, thinking she moved along with me. I opened it and I read that she was denied public assistance, denied medical insurance, and denied food stamps. She met the requirements for getting them, but because of my report, she lost everything but Social Security income, as far as I know. What probably helped was that I told the DSS she stole my card and requested a new one, and the lady at the front desk was mortified. I found out she took the money out later when I set up the card online and saw all the previous transactions for the past year. She's out $850 a month, more than her Social Security income, and out of health insurance, which was paid for by the state, all because of me, and I boasted about it to my therapist. My therapist actually congratulated me because I'm very shy with people, so reporting it like that was very unlikely unless you got me very angry. Not sure if this is appropriate here, but it took a lot out of me to even do it. Thanks, anxiety. Next up, this story is called The Karen That Breeds Minion Karens. This all happened around Christmas/New Year's. but I just found the sub and I'm obsessed with it now, so I have to give my story. My grandparents immigrated to Canada from Italy in the 70s and opened up a restaurant. When they passed away and the restaurant went to my parents. Over the decades, they grew and expanded it. I've been working at the restaurant since I was 15. Over time, my parents got older and eventually retired, becoming snowbirds, go to Florida for the winters. They left the restaurant to me about a few years ago, but still retaining a small percent ownership as an additional revenue stream along with their savings and annuities. As soon as I gained control, I pretty much modernized the old place. Remodeling the restaurant changed. The logo reached out to the local and national papers to put out ads, invited food critics, bloggers, vloggers, etc. It was very slow at first, and I began to worry that the loan I took out to do all this was the biggest mistake I had ever done, and I ruined 3 generations of my family's business. But eventually it began to work, and the local semi-famous YouTube featured us in one of his videos. And that was the catalyst for more people to come and review, and eventually we were seeing 5 times to 10 times the business we usually get, even if it's a Monday. It became a hot spot for major events, and it wasn't uncommon for a celebrity to come. On those nights, I even arranged for special high-profile chiefs to visit and cook for our guests. Cost a fortune. So during the holidays, we were beyond packed. It got to the point where people would have to make reservations in July to get a table in December. This process took years to get to where we are now. When it gets busy, I don't just sit in the back office. I'm on the floor doing whatever needed to be done, even if that means I greet people, bussing tables, or even mopping the floors. Other nights when we have high-profile guests or events, I'm in a blazer and I'm acting in charge, though. On one night, a group of 6 women walk in. 5 of them look like they are still in their early 20s, but the head of the group looked like she was in her mid-20s. Best theory, she was one of the other 4 girls' older sister, possibly an older sorority sister to incoming college freshmen, maybe. I was greeting at the door as they were walking up. Queen Bee Karen was telling the baby Karens on how this place is awesome, food is amazing, and there might even be celebrities here. When she came up to me, she told me that she needed a table for 6. I replied, "Of course. Can I please get the name on the reservation?" She looked at me and said, "Oh, I didn't make one, but it's okay. The owner is a personal friend of mine," he said, and he always has 1 or 2 tables that he keeps open for special guests, and said we can have one of those tonight. Now, generally, this is true of many high-profile restaurants, and lately, I have been doing that as well, but I had no clue who this woman was, and she definitely never spoke to me about any of this. I did get what she was trying to get in without a reservation, but she literally picked the worst person she could possibly talk to and try this. I told her, "I am sorry, but we cannot seat anyone without a reservation. As you can see, we do not have any seats available." I didn't want to go all and say I'm the owner, and we have never spoke before, so I never promised you a thing. I didn't want to embarrass her in front of the other girls she was with. At first. She then went on and said out loud to one of the other girls to take a picture of me. She will speak to the owner and make sure I'm either cleaning the toilet or fired by the end of the week. The other girls follow her lead and were like, "Yeah, kiss your minimum wage job goodbye." I'm not sure if they were in on it or with her, or they honestly thought she knew the owner. Queen Bee Karen then went on to said, "Look, you can just give us a table or I can make life very difficult for you. This is not worth losing your job." Constantly pointing, just trying to put me down, saying things like, "Obviously you aren't anyone here, because if you were, you would know who I am," and never even tried to tell me anything other than yes or of course, constantly trying to belittle me and get that table. At this point, it was a long day for me, and the way I saw it, I had 3 options. Tell her I'm the owner and just call her out on all this. 2, just give her the table and let it be. 3, teach Queen Bee Karen and her little minions a lesson. I chose option 3 for various reasons, including some personality flaws that I am aware of and I have, but I like to think it was at least 50% really wanting to teach her a lesson. I smiled at her, said, "Of course, ma'am, follow me, please," and I gave her one of the 3 tables we keep open in case a celebrity comes. It happens time to time. I told her I apologized for everything and that she was right. It would be simpler just to give her the table. I also told her that the first 3 round of drinks will be complimentary. I sat them down and personally served them. As they were sitting down, I told them, "We do need one of your credit cards and IDs just to keep on file. We will give it back to you before you leave." Queen Karen gave me her cards and told the baby Karen manias that tonight was on her. I took their orders and got them their free drinks and told them due to how busy we are tonight there might be a delay on the food. All the girls were thinking of and cared about were the free rounds. They ordered their 3 rounds and still no food. Then eventually called me and asked me to check on it, the whole time giving me the world's most nasty attitude, since even before they ordered, I told them I would check on it, but also asked if they would like any more drinks. They ordered 2 more rounds by the time the appetizers arrived. At this point, they were all drunk. Have done nothing but drink on an empty stomach most of the night, and only having had salads after, as more food arrives and more drinks are ordered. What these girls never realized is that they are at our VIP table, which alone cost a few thousand just to sit in. But I didn't charge them for that. What I did charge them was for all the super expensive cocktails they had had through the whole night, except for the first 3 rounds. In addition, the table they were sitting at was mentioned VIP, so the menus were a bit different. For one, they don't say prices on them, trade secret. And in addition, it had certain higher-end menu options, such as white truffle, black caviar dishes, and specially imported West Coast oysters, among other things. At one point in the night, I was honestly rethinking what I was doing and thought I might be going too far with these poor girls. They might not know any better, but some things reassured me throughout the night. Such of one was baby Karen's asked me if I felt my life was worthless since all I ever became was a waiter. Also, one of the other employees told me how they were discussing how to fuck with me, to the point that they can just do this whenever they want, and I will know to always give them a table. I also overheard them say, "He's cute, but I would never date a waiter like that. He is such a pushover." There were a bunch of comments like that the whole night, so I kept on with their life lesson. By the end of the night, each girl racked up a bill in the range of $500 to $600 per girl. When I handed Queen Karen the bill of $4,232.23, with tax and tip included, of course. I've never seen anyone sober up so quickly. She went from laughing and giggling with her friends to nearly in tears. She called me over instantly and asked if this was some kind of joke. I took the bill, looked it over, and said, "Oh yes, I apologize. I will get you the correct bill in a moment." Again, she felt a common sense of relief, thinking she got someone else's bill, calling me a fucking idiot, and went on to talking with her friends. To be fair, I did make a mistake. I did forget to count on our 8th order of a dozen oysters that cost about $120 per order, so I gladly just went back and added it to the order. When I went to give it back to the correct bill, she flipped out again, going crazy. I just asked if there is something on this bill that she didn't order. She and the girls, in shock, go over every single line of the bill, including the first few lines that show the original 3 rounds, which say complimentary. They then took out their phones and line by line went over everything line by line for the 100th time, adding everything up. Extremely rattled, Queen Bee simply said, "1 second, I need to use the washroom." Part of me thought that she might just pull a dine and dash and leave the Barry Karens with the bill, but kinda low-key, I did in a way remind her that we had ID and her credit card without making it obvious. I thought she was going to run out on the bill. 10 minutes later, she comes back with new makeup. Obviously, she's been crying, and makes up a whole story on how the food was awful, the drinks were bad, and so on, demanding that, as bare minimum, I should cut the bill in half with the agreement the baby Karens will chip in, even though she originally told them the night would be on her. Then, as if a light bulb went off in her head, she began mentioning her relationship with the owner, as if it were to give me additional incentive to cut the bill in half. Holding back a grin at this point, I told her no. Just no, I can't change the bill. She whips out her phone and shows me a series of texts with someone called my restaurant's name owner, which pretty much I realized what she was doing in the bathroom. She probably changed one of the other Karen minions' contact name and deleted previous contact texts with her to this new script. I read them and then clicked on contact into and told her that's not the owner's cell number. Her reply was, "He has multiple phones for business and stuff. Of course you don't know all his numbers." I remember, wow, this girl thought of everything except I'm the actual owner. I told her about this. If we call him and he says that it's okay to take 50% off the bill, then I'll do it. Her reply was a yelling and screaming over the time where the few remaining customers all began to start looking, and I knew, okay, time to end this. I told her already in a less accommodating voice, cut the crap, little girl. You don't know the owner. You have never been here before, and if you keep yelling, I will call the police. Her demeanor changed, and she was trying to defend herself the best she could. Her reply to her weak comebacks was, my grandparents founded this restaurant. My family's been running this place for generations. I have worked here almost my entire life. I am the one and only owner of this restaurant, and I have never once seen you, heard of you, and I definitely never made a stranger I don't know and have never met before tonight any promises. The many Karens were just frozen and didn't even know how to react. Queen Bee Karen was in tears. I said, now I gave you the table. You wanted one of your specially reserved tables for high-end clients, which I didn't charge you for, and I gave you 3 rounds of free drinks. If you don't pay your bill, I will call the cops and hand them your ID. In tears, Karen signed the bill, and the many Karens took out the purses and gave her whatever cash they had, which equaled maybe a couple of hundred, with the promises to pay her back more. 2 days later, a man walks into my restaurant fuming and asks one of my bartenders to speak to me. I was in the back of the office for a bit working, so he waited a good half hour for me, which was Queen Bee Karen's father. She was with him too, keeping her head down. I took both of them to my office, showed him highlights of the security cameras, which were especially good quality of audio because they were in the VIP, which we had to keep good records of because we have had other unrelated incidents before. So I showed him most of it, their comments, their orders, their everything. When all was said and done, he stormed out with her and was screaming at her the whole time they were walking away. I haven't seen or heard from either of them since, but the original bill I gave them, the one that didn't count the 120 oysters, is framed on my desk. Side note, I didn't lose as much overhead on the table in 3 rounds as you might think. The table was originally supposed to be empty, so I didn't lose anything since I didn't expect to gain anything with it, and overheard for the food and other drinks more than covered the cost for the 3 free first rounds. I thought about posting this on the Nuclear Revenge, but I read some of the stories there, and I think making this girl pay a few thousand and give her a life lesson doesn't qualify for some of the revenge. There is life-ending revenge stories and losses in the tens or hundreds of thousands. With that, let me know what you guys think about seeing the Nuclear Revenge subreddit next. That's all I'll leave you with today, and I hope you guys enjoyed.